order. It's 6:09. We are meeting this evening at the Mount Sinai-Friendship United Church at 7510 Woodland Avenue. We want to thank our listeners and viewers remotely, and we also want to extend a welcome to those of you who have joined us today. We're starting a little bit late. Commissioner Earley arranged a meeting with pastors in mission, and do I have that title right? United Pastor Mission, and they were kind enough to have a reception for us, and when there is food, that made us a little bit late today getting started. But we do want to thank those of you who joined us for the reception, as well as those of you who are in the audience this evening. So we will begin by having a roll call, voice roll call that will be done by my co-chair, Commissioner Adriana.
Commissioner Adams.
Present.
Commissioner Benito.
Present.
Commissioner Shura. Excuse absence. Commissioner Donaldson.
Present.
Commissioner Earley. Present. Commissioner Garret-Ferguson. Excused absence. Commissioner Kate Kennedy. Excused absence. Commissioner Greg Reeves.
Present.
Commissioner Pete Van Leer.
Present.
Commissioner Wong.
Present.
Commissioner Zaid.
Present.
Co-chair Ridgeway.
Present.
Co-chair Rodriguez. Present.
I hope that everyone was able to pick up a copy of the agenda, and we would like to just present this agenda to the commissioners to see if there is any recommendation for changes on this agenda. If not, we will accept the agenda as presented. We want to be able to, I just want to take a couple of seconds to say that we were able to be on the community radio station yesterday at Burton Bear Carr. And Jay, the DJ, is downstairs now. And it was a very interesting discussion sharing what we know to date about the commission and answering questions that he thought people in the community might be interested in. And he has extended an invitation for members of the commission to come back and give updates on a fairly regular basis. And while the co-chair and I were there yesterday, it was a very lengthy discussion, close to an hour maybe. We also want to extend this invitation to committee members, those of you who may be serving as liaisons to different community organizations, and you may want to be able to share your work that you're doing as well as work that you may have gleaned from your involvement with other community organizations that will impact the work that we do here on the commission. Let me just share that we are live. You want to? Okay. Okay, you want me to go? Yeah, go ahead.
You want me to do? Okay, so next we're going to do meeting decorum. As we know that ex-commissioners, we follow Robert Rules of Order as well as guidelines for public comment. You will see this on the bottom of the agenda. We will have you step to this mic, encourage everyone to utilize their voices when it's time, as well as ensure that we are respectful of everybody's comments. So the next item of business is the approval of the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Okay, if not, we can accept them as they have been distributed and hopefully read.
The next item of business is guest presentations. We will hear the presentations from the Black Shield Association, as well as the Hispanic Police Officer Association representatives. So if you would like to step forward at this time and sit at these seats.
We have 2 chairs up here for you. So you want to start with the Black Shield? Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, rather.
Oh, so you both can share. Oh, you have one?
My name is Mr. Jackson, President of the Black Shield Police Association. And
Sergeant Manny Velez, President of the Hispanic Police Officers Association. Good evening.
go ahead, sorry.
I'll go ahead and begin. First of all, thank you for the invitation to all of the commissioners and for the opportunity to be able to introduce ourselves to you all and to share a little bit about the work and about our organization. Again, like I said, my name is Sergeant Manny Velez, and I'm the president of the organization. I've been the president since 2020, but I've been a Cleveland police officer since 2014. I'd be remiss to not share that my vice president, Eric Melendez, is here with me as well. The Hispanic Police Officers Association has been serving the citizens of the city of Cleveland since 1986. I say 1986 is because that's when the idea of the HPOA came about with members, Hispanic members of the Cleveland Division of Police. In the early 90s, following those ideas and those talks, early recruitment began within the Hispanic community. I remember talking with late Lieutenant Zena Martinez, who's no longer with us, but she would share experiences about going to the Spanish American Committee and giving civil service practice tests and encouragement to people from the Hispanic community to take the test and join the Cleveland Police Department. I know that recently my mom gave me an old article. It goes all the way back to June 20th, 1993. So soon it will be 30 years of this article in Spanish, and it represents 8 police officers that were in the academy that year that joined in 1993. There were several similar classes as well during the 90s, and that goes to show some of the efforts that were being done in a grassroots level within the community. And so we appreciate the founders of this organization. In 1995, it finally incorporated under the guidance of Tony Colon, who's no longer with us, Frank Torres, and Angel Ortiz, who's deceased. And for Tony Colon, he's still with us in life. He's just retired from the police department, as well as Frank Torres. I'll share quickly just early purposes, and this was in the Articles of Incorporation. It was to promote friendly association and the general welfare of our members, to better existing conditions of police officers through mutual support and encouragement, advance the social, charitable, and educational undertaking among police officers, and to further justice and humanity by means of equality to all. In 1997, the Three Kings Dinner Dance and Scholarship Benefit was started by members of the Hispanic Police Officers Association. Of course, it's a small organization. It was probably a potluck, probably like a bunch of families getting together. Today, it has grown exponentially. We host nearly 500 people annually, and it's developed a partnership between the HPOA and Esperanza Incorporated, which mentors students within the CMSD. That has allowed us to support students each year with multiple scholarships, $1,000 scholarships, and each student that we get every year, we support them through 4 years. Another thing that we've noticed throughout the development of that event and fundraiser, it's become multi-generational. We got people as young as 20, 21 years old breaking bread with folks who are in their 60s and 70s and all through the spectrum. So we're proud to say that the organization has been able to impact and attract folks from all generations. Internally, of course, and it would be most likely the same with the Black Shield, we have the opportunity to attend disciplinary hearings. Of course, it's important for us to maintain open and healthy relationships with the bargaining organizations such as the CPPA and the FOP. It's important for us, and this is what we do every day. We listen and we learn from our membership, whether it be complaints, matter of lack of equity, or just things going on in their personal life that they need encouragement about. So we encourage them and we share resources for professional development, and we give them opportunities for community engagement. It's important for us within the Cleveland Division of Police to constantly advocate for equality, opportunity, and access. Some of the committees that have the City of Cleveland has afforded us to be a part of is the Hiring Screening Committee, the Awards Committee, and the Uniform Committee, to name a few. As far as our engagement experience within the community, it's important to know that our engagement is culturally competent when it comes to Spanish-speaking population. We have contact regularly with seniors. We have a good relationship with the Department of Aging, the Hispanic Senior Center, and we visit elderly living spaces. We have partnered with health institutions in the past, and this is to take food. We've taken, like, for example, during the holidays, parranda, which is holiday caroling, to let seniors in different living apartment buildings, we want them to know that they're not alone, that we're here for them, whether it be to break bread or to have a discussion, laugh a little, and share some coffee. With the youth, we go to schools, career days, and we certainly encourage the young folks to engage in civic action. We develop partnerships with places like Job Corp, which has student volunteers that we've cleaned up parks, and they volunteered for the Puerto Rican Parade, and Lincoln West Global School of Studies, International Studies, with volunteers. Just recently, Eric and I were invited by the Hispanic Council to present to young students and seniors at Tri-C so that they can be exposed to opportunities within the public safety sector. Partnerships, like I said before, include Esperanza, the Young Latino Network, the Cleveland Museum of Art. We do multiple workshops. We've done a workshop at the Cleveland Public Library, and certainly we volunteer with the Police Athletic League. Some of our charitable givings include annually the DV Shelter, Edna House, Providence House, and any fundraisers that come up within our police family, where we're part of turkey giveaways that are part of the community, and even Christmas giveaways. We partner with members of City Council, such as Ward 14 Councilwoman Jasmine Santana, and the city's Hispanic liaison from the Community Relations Board, and that's been that way historically. It's important for us to promote health within our membership. And so, for example, this Friday, you all are welcome. Co-ed softball. This is in the community. It's the city's league. Every single Friday, we have officers on their own time just coming out, bringing their spouses, their children, and it's a wonderful opportunity for them to kind of let go, but at the same time, we're visible with the community. We're laughing, shaking hands, having conversations, and just creating those spaces so we can have dialogue, whatever it is that the community wants to discuss. Again, it's important to stress that it's culturally competent, right? And so it's important if somebody doesn't speak English, their primary language is Spanish. It's important for us to make them feel comfortable and to communicate in the language they're comfortable in. We also have an annual pig roast for our members and a lot of our partners. You guys are welcome to come. It'll be in September at Whiskey Island, and we certainly do a full roast, full pig roast. Some of the cohorts that we have participated in was through Cuyahoga Arts and Culture and the Center for Performance and Civic Practice. We were teamed up with artists. It was a learning lab, and it's to advance professional development and to co-design together some art project or piece that addresses something in the community of need. In 2017, like I said, we're still a young organization. We became a 501c3. In 2018, we had discussions with the Cultural Arts Center, Julia de Burgos, and they gave us the City of Cleveland's oldest Hispanic-led outdoor event, which is the Puerto Rican Parade and Festival in 2018. We use it as a platform to further engage community, to address social determinants of health. We partnered with over 40 health organizations and gave out prizes to encourage folks to go through health screenings and take care of themselves. Again, taking advantage of that platform. And so we have partnerships with individual leaders of the community, teachers, folks who live in the neighborhood to help us plan this event year-round. And also, it's allowed us to partner with large institutions such as the Cleveland Guardians, who were with us last year, brought Carlos Baerga, Candy Maldonado. We're in constant communication with the Cavaliers, who participated as well. And this year, we are partnering directly with Metro Health Hospital for this event that last year hosted nearly 10,000 people. This year, we're expecting much more. And we bring international artists from the Dominican Republic, from Puerto Rico. We have folks coming from New York City that's originally from Cuba and other places. As far as an organizational highlight I would like to share is that prior to 2019, we were engaging in our work, but we didn't have, the HPOA did not have detailed positions for president and vice president. That meant that if you were in leadership with this organization, you were driving around handling police calls and also fielding phone calls from your members to address all of these things that I just discussed. In 2019, due to lobbying internally within the Cleveland Police Department and discussions with then Frank G. Jackson's office when he was mayor, we were able to get full-time details to be able to do this work for the Hispanic Police Officers Association. That being said, while there's always much work to do, it's important to highlight that we do have progress, and so we appreciate that opportunity. I will share this. It's important for us year-round to be present in spaces within our community's ecosystem so that we can consistently listen, identify needs, whether they be barriers, to educate our Spanish-speaking population, and to, of course, give access if they don't have access to services, whether it be OPS, whether it be literature, whether it be helping them understand how the process works within the Cleveland Police Department. I'm happy to share in ending that this year we are partnering with members of the Newark, New Jersey Police Department. They're coming about 30 strong. They say they want to beat us in softball, but we're creating sister cities so that we can learn from each other. That police department has over 60% Hispanics, and we want to learn from their efforts to attract more folks in recruitment. And we also have the NYPD coming to town this August. It's a community engagement arm of that police department. These musicians have utilized their talents to start a band since 2013, and they've been unifying the community since 2013, playing salsa, merengue. This year, they will be with us in full uniform, just sharing their talents of music on stage at the Puerto Rican parade. You guys are certainly more than welcome to be with us on any of our activities, and thank you for supporting our work.
Thank you so much. You gave us a whole lot of information. I just want to know, within the commission, do you have questions or that you would like to ask specifically? Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed learning about what the Hispanic Police Officers Association is doing, and thank you for your great work. A question I wanted to ask is in one of our trainings that we had with the Division of Police, I asked about whether Spanish-speaking officers were placed in districts that had more Latino residents. And the answer that I was given, I was a little surprised by. They said that no, they didn't do that because that would be discriminatory. And I thought that was kind of curious, because while I agree that, we want all of our officers to practice bias-free policing and to be able to interact with all of our citizens, I think that, if you are a Spanish speaker and if you have somebody that you're working with who is Spanish speaking, that you have an ability to communicate and build rapport, and especially with a focus on CPOP. And so I was just kind of wanted to get your perspective on that, and if that's something, if that's what you're seeing too from officers, what our Latino and Spanish speaking officers feel about that. That was my first question. And then my second question is, I would love to know from you how we can support the work that you're doing, and what are things that you would like to see us focusing on?
Sure. Thank you for both of those questions. To the first one, I think this has been a long time discussion for many years. The department does not historically identify, say, Spanish-speaking officers to put them in a particular district. I'll use myself, for example. In my class, I was the only Spanish-speaking person back in 2014, and I started my career in the 4th District and later on in the 3rd District. Even though, the 2nd District is predominantly, Spanish-speaking and has much of a need. It wasn't until I got promoted to the rank of sergeant in 2019 that I happened to be assigned, but it was short-lived with the detail to the HPOA, even though most of our work is there. Some of the nuances that could occur with not focusing, let's say, a large number of Spanish-speaking officers within an area that certainly has the need, is that you could be calling upon the same officer for translation consistently, right? And so that is definitely a subject that gets thrown around. I guess if an individual officer feels that, let's say, they're being called upon a little more excessively, then they might have the thought process that, okay, it's overwhelming. I know in the past, because I've heard members bring it up, the discussion of, okay, well, should, for example, verified Spanish-speaking officers, should they be, or any other language outside of English, the question of should they be compensated, right, for their abilities, right? And when I say proven abilities, or it's someone, should we be testing officers and certifying them as, okay, that person can be a translator, and they should be compensated for it. That's a discussion that we could, certainly have, and maybe go out and put feelers out and get data. But I think it applies to any language when we're talking about cultural competency, when we're talking about giving access. It's important to kind of consider those things. You can't just, it's difficult when somebody doesn't have the proper access. To your second question, I hope that answers some of it. To your second question, I appreciate you offering support from the commission. I will say this, and I know it's probably the same for the Black Shield. We're the type of organization where it's a volunteer board, and there's only 2 people detailed. And so the rest of the board are probably, they're on patrol. For example, my secretary, she's a homicide detective, and she was overwhelmed at work. And so a lot of this work falls on kind of like the top tier leadership. Right now, Eric and I have been working on identifying and basically putting down all of our annual programming and work in order to then approach several foundations to just get staff, right? Whether I'd be happy if it was one person, I'd be happy to have 1 intern, 2 interns, something to alleviate some of that work. We go into late nighters, especially with these events, or when we're hosting the parade and festival, it's 10,000 people. Now, it's a huge community event, but at the end of the day, we're given thousands of hours. And sometimes outside of our volunteers who step up to the plate, it would be nice to have a person there. And sometimes we just need kind of the recommendation or the leverage of an organization such as the commission to say, hey, listen, we support their work. If there's anything that, say, the Cleveland Foundation, the O'Neill Foundation, or Luke's, whichever, to be able to support some of the work that we do and have your backing, that would go a long way.
Thank you, Commissioner Benito. I think you may have another question, but let me just see. You okay? Anyone else has a question or comment that you want to share? Commissioner Wong?
Hi, Mr. Sergeant Velez. So I read with interest a 2015 article from the Plain Dealer. You were part of that recruit class, and you were also the class speaker.
Yes.
It did say that that was the highest academically achieving police class in Cleveland's history. I'm just wondering what reflections you had upon how that happened and what we can do better in making sure that the officers not only qualify for their position, but excel in their initial kind of training.
I appreciate the question, and that's an interesting one. First of all, I'm proud of the achievements of my class. A lot of the classmates, you really become family. You know, the style of the academy, at least then, was very paramilitary. I was an older adult. I was 34 years old when I came through the academy, and so I had wife, children, and so, but I think it's a testament to the members of that class. There was high quality folks in that class, and we supported each other, we encouraged each other. As far as the metrics, what can the commission do to ensure that future classes score that high? It's kind of something kind of difficult to gauge, I would say, but it's important to make sure that the academy has all of the support it needs to continue giving high quality training to the officers who are coming out. These recruits need all of the encouragement in the world, and so we need to make sure that we have high quality staff in the academy, and that the tools and resources they request, that they're given it. If they're asking for resources, they need it.
What prompted you personally because you said you were a late entrant, and what did you do before becoming a police officer?
Yes, and so before I was a police officer, I've been serving the citizens of the city of Cleveland since 2000. I was about 134 pounds wet walking through the halls of City Hall. I was a building inspector at the time. It was during the Mike White administration. And so my experience at City Hall and helping the elderly with a lot of dilapidated properties. Tremont was not what it is now. Ohio City was not what it is now. And a lot of that work within the community and meeting up with development corporations informed my decision to become a police officer. I developed relationships at that time, like I said, with the late Zena Martinez, who was a patrol officer at the time, and her partner was Gerson Martinez, who recently left the department. And so they would encourage me to join the police department, and I saw a further opportunity to help folks in another way. I was a music director and worship leader at my local church, and my involvement in that always informed, my want to help folks. But the thought that when people call 911, you are it. You're at their worst moment. You're at their dire time of need. And whatever that help is, you have that wonderful opportunity to be the one to give it to them. Whether it be words of encouragement for young folks, whether it be finding the perfect or the right way or the best words to share difficult news for parents or even children, whether to sit next to a child that's by themselves, there's nothing better in the world than to be chosen or picked to be able to serve in that capacity. And that was certainly inspiring to me, and it certainly makes you kind of put behind the 6 months or 8 months of the academy going through fire. Once you're out there and you're helping someone, it all makes sense and it's worthwhile.
Thank you, Commissioner Wong. Do we have any other questions or comments from anyone else? I have a couple then. I wanted to leave it open for everyone else first, but how many Hispanic officers are there?
I can't give you an exact number, but I will give you a percentage. I believe it's about 9%. It fluctuates. I've seen it go to 9 point something, but I would say that we're around 9%. As far as our members, we have about 140 members, but not all of them are CPD, so we have some associate members from other departments.
Okay, and do you recruit within your ethnic group?
Yes, that's correct. So we recruit all of our engagement with the community includes recruitment. We're constantly talking to someone into public safety, whether obviously number one police, but even with fire and EMS and even dispatch. We certainly preach dispatch as an entry level if they're showing signs of interest at, let's say, 18 years old.
Okay. And I guess the last question, we have talked somewhat in our training with the police department about CPOP experiences between the police and our residents, and you shared an awful lot about the work that your particular association has done within the community. Do you all fill out those forms? Is that noted where it's part of the record of those experiences?
Yes. So to your answer, your answer is no. So we don't. The work that we do within the community is organic. It happens naturally within the organization. We're constantly relationship building, and they develop, right? If one of our partner organizations has a networking event and it's an opportunity to, let's say, put out a table, a recruitment table or whatnot, we'll do it organically. We've developed relationships with multiple teachers throughout the city of Cleveland, and Eric's phone is probably blown up on a regular basis to go to school and speak to children. I know that I've had that discussion internally and even with Director Carrie Howard. We've discussed possibly adding like an addendum at the end of the Division of Police's yearly report where we can kind of share on paper the work that the HPOA is doing, and then that way it's memorialized within the city's annual report.
Are there any? Okay, Commissioner Wong?
So I do have the statistics, Co-Chair Ridgeway. It is 100, according to 2022, 137 Hispanic officers, which represents 10% of the force, and the community population's at 12%. So what I wanted to ask you is, are there, it just seems like a lot of Hispanic culture is brought in to how you relate to the community from your own family structures and how you relate to each other. Could you tell us, not to make a monolith of the Hispanic community, because that's many different nationalities and ethnicities, what are the kind of prevailing needs that you hear from those communities, and maybe some shared ones with other communities that you see? Are there differences between different nationalities of Hispanic groups that you've witnessed?
Yes, and so the Hispanic community as a whole, or Latinos, represent many different cultures. There's variations in even the terms that they use, and that's where the cultural sensitivity comes into play. But again, everyone has different circumstances. If we're talking, let's say, about members of the Puerto Rican community, well, they might not have issues, let's say, with working, being a permanent resident or working on immigration issues, right? So, but we do have other communities within the Latino community that those are issues that we have to make the connections, right? Whether it be talking to attorneys or social organizations to be able to assist in their situation. The language barrier for newcomers, that's a huge hindrance, and we deal with it all the time. I have students at the Newcomers Academy who are interested in a career in public safety, but first they have to develop, they have to learn English. And so there's many different levels of help, and everyone's like in a different place on that spectrum. And certainly the diverse cultures within the Latino community has an influence in where people are at within that spectrum.
Commissioner Adams?
Thank you. I guess my question is, we have a training committee. So last week, a couple of us met with the training committee from the CDP, and so one of the issues that seems to be, prevailing, and it comes up a lot, is that there's a recruitment problem. That recruiting is really difficult right now. Today, when I was at work, one of my students just made a comment that like nobody wants to be a police anymore, right? So clearly that's not a solution. We're gonna need people who actually wanna be policemen. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on sort of what do you think, and you could talk about it from just a general perspective or a cultural perspective or whatever perspective you like to comment, but what do you think are the biggest issues that we're facing that makes young people not see policing as a career that they would want themselves in their future?
Thank you for the question. That's a difficult one. I mean, simply said, a career in police is not as attractive as it was, say, 10, 15 years ago. And we could certainly tell that when I took the test. I think there was maybe about 3,500 people in the same room taking the same test at the same time. But I think there's been a corrosion, right? I mean, obviously, we have to find a way to highlight progress. And, it's easy, let's say, from perspective of being commissioners. It's important for you guys to, identify where we can be better. But at the same time, there has to be a balance because I think it helps the attractiveness of the job when you highlight successes within, let's say, just specifically the Cleveland Division of Police. I think it's important to kind of like interlace ourselves in the fabric of the community so that we could organically attract people to the job. If you're not going to attract them by a poster, you're not going to attract them by a simple message. They have to see the living and breathing example of what it is to be someone who's serving in that capacity and to be able to ask open-ended questions about our experience as police officers in order to inspire them. And that has to happen through community engagement. And unfortunately, there is no timetable, there's no magic ball. This is a nationwide issue. Within the city of Cleveland, I think it was exacerbated a little bit by going back to the Jane Campbell layoffs. You got a 4-year period of no hire. I believe there was an 05 class and then maybe almost a 2-year break on top of that. And then in 2012, we go back into when the state was pulling funding, and then we go back into another gap. And so nobody had kind of like a magic ball to know where we were going to be at as far as attractiveness for policing, but certainly those gaps did not help. I think we can always go back and learn from it. Within our department, there are certain classes that qualify, right? And so those are trends. If a class, class 107 started a certain year, well, that 25 years later, they're eligible to retire, and that's going to be a whole exodus of folks who qualify, and it's almost like you have to play that game ahead of time. You have to do the math and kind of look ahead into the future and say, well, what if worst case happens, right? This class of 40 people are eligible to retire, then suddenly, you need to have a discussion with, HR and the whatever administration is in to say, hey, listen, we need to prepare for those 40 folks who can leave.
We want to thank you for that historical perspective, because I think when we hear that we are 400 policemen short, we generally think that it is something recently, but to be able to hear you share where those gaps have occurred, where different actions have happened, helps us to put this shortage in perspective. And so I appreciate your sharing that. Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Donaldson.
Thank you for joining us. Just wanted to clarify, earlier you stated that the department does not identify Spanish-speaking officers. By that, do you mean that during the application process, you're not asked if you speak?
No, I'm saying when let's say you go through an academy class, they don't identify who's Hispanic to then choose a district for them.
Okay, but
It's a randomly, you are asked.
Okay,
But
got
the assignment for a district is a random assignment.
Okay.
So like, for example, myself, if they were approaching it they would have said, hey, Velez, do you speak Spanish? Yes, I do. Okay, perfect. We're going to have to put you in the 2nd district because that's where you're needed most.
Okay.
That's not a custom.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Just to follow up on that, and thank you so much for your great answers. So I just want to confirm that there is no bilingual pay differential currently for officers who are bilingual. And then, for officers who speak Spanish, if another officer is called to a scene where there is someone who only speaks Spanish, are other officers often called in? Do officers often end up translating for other officers, or are more like mobile translators being, like phone or video translators being used?
Sure. It varies. So normally, if there's a language barrier, an officer will go over radio and tell radio, I need assistance. I think this person is speaking in Spanish. And radio will go over the air and say, hey, do I have any Spanish-speaking officers? They'll chime up and say, hey, could you please go to this location and assist this other officer? Sometimes you could just work it out just by assisting in translation. I have known, I know that it has happened many, many times where the circumstances are just too complicated, and maybe a supervisor will opt to say, hey, why don't you just go ahead and do the report? And I think that can sometimes be overwhelming. I don't think that utilizing something as the language bank is first option, say for Spanish-speaking circumstances.
And then just to follow up on that, when it goes over the radio, is it just to that particular district, or do they will call to other districts? And then do you get the sense of any of the Spanish-speaking officers, do they feel overwhelmed by being pulled in? And I know that you can't speak for all officers, and all officers might have a different perspective, but is that something you're hearing?
Okay, so to your first question, yes, if radio does not find an available Spanish-speaking officer, they do tend to go to another channel. basically to another district to see if there's another available Spanish-speaking person. Now, in all honesty, I haven't had it come up recently at all, but I have heard it throughout my experience in my career. I've heard frustrated officers, let's say, being called upon multiple times, getting stuck with reports, and I know that prior to my time on the police department, because it has been shared through HPOA members, that there was a big discussion and push about, hey, listen, man, we continue to translate. We should get paid for these extra services. It's an additional, ability, and it should be recognized and compensated.
So we want to thank you. I mean, you all put him through a a pretty heavy session here, so we do appreciate your willingness to share with us so openly and transparently. You can tell that we all have a real interest in the internal operations of the police department. It definitely will allow us to do our work better the more informed we are. So we do appreciate your willingness to share with us, and you, by all means, stay and give your fellow officers some support up at this table. So he was here for you, so don't take your seat. You have a mic right here.
First off, thank you for that. Again, my name is Mr. Jackson with the Black Shield Police Association. I've been its president this past 2 years. In my latest term, from a long line of great people who have been in this mantle. I certainly want to start off by saying we were consistent in I want to first start by saying that we have been consistent and strong supporters of the HPOA even before they got in this position. Our organization goes back since 1946. We were created as a direct disparity of the treatment of minorities within the community as well as on the police department. Since then, we've been involved in a lot of the community work parallel to what HPOA does. We've garnered a lot of relationships that are deep within community, most notably even the police commission itself. We have our national partners, National Association of Black Law Enforcement Officers, which those are for supervisors and up, as well as the National Black Police Association and National Association of Black Law Enforcement Officers. So we also have our national partners. Again, similar to HPOA, but the direct difference is we're dealing with a culture that has a deep history of racial tension. So for instance, when you're speaking of recruiting in the black community, it's a little more difficult. That's certainly been my experience. So I know one of the commissioners had a question as far as recruitment goes. When asking someone from that's African American, hey, why don't you come on and be a police officer? You're going to get met with a lot of questions, a lot of opposition as how will I be treated when I go back to my community. Believe me, when I first started, that was one of the questions I had. I got on because I had a family member who happens to be in law enforcement. So a lot of times when we do come on the job, it's word of mouth. So it's, okay, so what are you dealing with? How did you navigate this? I've been on for 15 plus years. The class that I graduated from had a lot of my peers in them. So I was very fortunate to have a lot of people who I even went to high school with who decided they'll take this journey as well. And it made a big difference. And what I've noticed since we have been on the job, we have been that voice to others who we would love to see to follow in our footsteps, pretty much replace us as we leave off the job to keep it going, because there are, I want to say, numerous situations and circumstances that are going to be, I want to say almost not, I don't want to use the word exclusive, but a lot of African Americans can definitely relate to. For instance, our tour duty does not stop when the uniform comes off. A lot of times we go back to the neighborhood. So say if there's an incident that happened, especially if it's tragic, we're only a number of degrees away from said incident. Many a times, and even this past week, I get a call from a member, hey, this incident happened here. This was a cousin. So you're not only dealing with this at work, it goes into deep personal levels. So, and that's just not our members, that's even with the community as well. Again, as late as yesterday, I'm fielding calls from members, hey, this incident happened, and this is only degrees of separation from the officers who not only are working, but they live in these neighborhoods. So I can go a lot deeper. Believe me, you probably want to go right into questions because it's a lot we can go into. I don't want to take up too much time.
So Officer Jackson has put some very interesting comments on the table. Anybody has a question for him or want to explore any comments that he's made a little bit deeper? Yes, Commissioner Wong.
So Officer Jackson, I just did a little research on the Black Shield, and I'm not citing this case as if I'm an expert, but there seemed to be a fairly important, significant case in 1972 that the Black
Absolutely.
Shield filed against Cleveland on the basis of hiring and promotion, and that actually became the basis of another lawsuit for the firefighters, which included both, and Hispanics were included in both of those cases. So can you give us, and I apologize if I don't know, are there differences, say I'm a particular rank of officer, are there still differences in pay depending on district or tenure? Or how is the salary determined, and has there been analysis of racial disparities with salary? And my last question is, I'm looking at the 2022 demographics of Division of Police. It does seem that both for female, Black, and Hispanic officers, that there seems to be kind of I'm just eyeballing the numbers, but some type of glass ceiling at around between sergeant and lieutenant. So would you be able to explain how, like a police officer, I guess, gets promoted, and what is special if there's a barrier there between those ranks? And like the other questions about, do they get paid differently? Are there racial disparities in payment, in salary, even though they are the same rank?
Excellent question. As far as disparity in salary, to my knowledge, and I wouldn't speculate to say that there is no speculation in salary, our salaries are public record, so I don't believe there to be a disparity there. What I will say is, I would say probably based on historically how hiring has happened as far as minorities, there's a disparity as far as those positions, opportunity for those positions. Now, is that changing? I would say it's too soon to tell, but historically, given that minorities were not hired as often or as much since that landmark case, it's causing issues now. So in a city where our percentage as far as population of African Americans is much higher than that on the department, that will lead to a lot of questions, to say the least.
I see that basically when I'm reading this case, the summary, it seems like we're living in 1972 again, right?
Yes.
The same issues. But we have, had a recent very famous case in the United States with Tyree Nichols that no matter the race of the officer, that the race of the citizen was more determinate, right? That we see Black officers with a Black citizen. So I guess I would like you to comment on what impact having, is it just Black officers? Because I do notice we are at, there's 24% of the police force is Black, and the community is at 48. This is according to the public safety report. What are the things that having more Black officers can resolve, and what are the things that it doesn't resolve, if that makes any sense? Or is it also a situation that having more Hispanic officers would help in a situation like that? Or officers just, maybe white officers that have lived in the city of Cleveland? if you can help us make sense of all those possibilities, because I think there is a tendency to think, oh, if we get just, if we get 48% of the CDP, CP or Division Police as Black, somehow we've solved a lot of problems. But what do you think, if you can look into the future, what you hope recruiting more minorities could resolve?
Okay. Again, excellent question. First, I'm a huge supporter of diversity, period. So having more Black officers, just in my experiences I've seen, those, including myself, came out of the class. When you're interacting with citizens or engaging with citizens, more often than not, there's a rapport that you have already. There's the tension or apprehension goes down because of what they see or what they may perceive, and the emphasis on perceive that a white officer is going to say or do. So that tension already goes out the window. They're more apt to speak with you about almost any issue or if something's going on in the neighborhood without feeling as if they're, how do I want to coin the term? Let's just say they're more comfortable. Having more minority officers in any neighborhood or any officers who match the area of which they're in just kind of bridges that gap. So if you everywhere from just regular citizens who want to speak to children who want to grow up and be what they see. So, which again made a huge impact even on myself.
Any other question? Or yes, Commissioner Benita. Oh, I didn't see Pete.
Thank you so much, and welcome again. One thing that really stood out to me that you talked about was the degrees of separation.
Yes.
To what officers are responding to, and
Yes.
that often, officers, Black officers are going, responding to calls in their neighborhood, or hearing about calls that happened in their neighborhood, and so I was thinking a lot about trauma exposure when you were talking about that, and about one thing that we know about the impact of trauma on people is that if you are, one of the things that can exacerbate the impact of trauma exposure is whether someone is from a marginalized community, because as a member of a marginalized community, you're experiencing trauma just walking through life.
Yes.
And so one thing I wanted to ask you is, do you feel like your members are getting the support that they need to address the trauma exposure that they have? How do you feel like, are there enough resources? And also specifically, do you feel like your members get access to the things that they need? And what, if there's anything that you'd like to see to help officers get the support that they need, especially recognizing the special circumstances and that kind of close degrees of separation that you addressed?
I would say that the departments, including the city, are doing the best they can with what they have. As far as support, a lot of our members are getting support because they use more. Absolutely. Even down support as far as just people. They're constantly, how to put it, just overworked. Like I said, when the uniform comes off, they're still here. So there's no stopping. So again, for at least our members, it's double what you would see. So if you have someone who lives outside the neighborhood who feels that they're getting overworked, imagine if you just worked a full shift, an extra shift, and then you go home in the same neighborhood and you're still dealing with the same issues, and you're back the following day.
Let me apologize. I can't see you over there. I didn't know you were waiting to have your mic, so
Sure, thank you.
please.
So I'm curious, you talked about some of the disparities that may or may not exist. What, anecdotally for sure, I hear about disparities in discipline for police officers who are not white. Could you speak to that? Is that something that's still an issue, or has that changed at all over the years, or how would you address that?
I would address it by saying it's still an issue that's being looked into. Would I say that is no longer an issue? No, I wouldn't say that. I would say it's definitely something to look into, and I would ask the commission itself to keep an eye on it as well.
Was there a question on this side? Yes. Commissioner Zaid?
I just want to say thank you for being here today. How many members are in the Black Shield?
Combined with the ones we have in Cleveland and similar to HPOA, we have members outside of Cleveland, about 300.
So I definitely hear and understand that there are complexities and difficulties with Black officers having such deep ties to the community, myself having over 5 family members affected by crime in Cleveland. I definitely understand that. I would like to know, despite those issues, what type of community engagement does Black Shield partake in? What type of community events do you guys host to just, engage with the community and build those connections? And what measures do you take to kind of push forward and do any type of recruitment despite those barriers?
Normally, annually, there are several events that we host and we collaborate on as many events as we can partner with. But on any given year, we'll host our annual book bag giveaway. In October, Anthony Johnson Scholarship Dinner Dances, which is one of our major events of the year. We have a Juneteenth event that's coming up next month, as a matter of fact, on the 17th. That's going to be at Glenview Park. So we're in planning phases of that now. I'm trying to think, there are several things. And again, we support HPOA, FOP, any events that we can collaborate on. And as far as recruitment, anytime we're out, any of our members, we're always recruiting. That's period. So whether it's at a call, whether we're speaking at a school, which again, one of the things that we were doing every, I want to say second Tuesday of the month, we're going to a different library and just speaking to the youth there. That's been at least until school is out. So we still have a couple libraries that have summer programs going on. And we're absolutely going to speak with youth. It's not just bringing them into the police department, but just public safety, period.
Okay, and Sergeant Velez spoke of staffing issues and issues with capacity and kind of getting some of the work done and needing help. Do you have that issue as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Adams?
Thank you. I guess my question, I'm listening, and now that we're moving towards some of our committee work, it's thinking about sort of some of the things that you're saying, and then how do we use our power and authority as a commission to sort of try to make some of these things actually come into fruition, or what type of solutions could we propose? I'm just trying to think about that because you're dealing with a lot right now. The work hours just for me alone, it just seems like it's a lot, and then the trauma you're exposed to, and then sort of like the bad public image that you have, and it's just a lot on you all right now. But my question, and like I said, I'm thinking about this in terms of like, as we move into our training committee, sort of how we work with the CDP's training committee to sort of help make things better. My question is there any tension between the Black Shields, and I guess we could also, I should ask you this question as well, the HPOA, and the police and patrolmen's associations, or do you feel equally and fully incorporated into those organizations, or I guess, is there some like level of like resentment or exclusion? It just seems like some of the, I'm a historian, so your organizations exist for a reason.
Yes.
Right? If everything was the way that it should be, then there would be no need for either of your organizations. So I guess I'm just trying to get at, if you could speak about what present maybe tensions, or maybe I'm wrong, but I just want to know, because part of what we're going to do Commissioner Donaldson and Reeves and Commissioner Trura, we're going to be helping with the training. And if there are these type of issues that you can kind of make us aware of, as we're helping the police with the training, we may be able to, you know, do our best to try to address some of those issues.
Yeah, I'll start with that one. I will start with currently. Currently, at least during this administration, we've had a great working relationship with the CPPA, as well as the FOP. Historically, that has not always been the case. The Black Shield and its members are also part of CPPA and FOP. Those are bargaining entities. So while we're part of it, there may have been some issues here and there where we just disagreed. There was no way around that. So there was a split as far as our members and our bargaining unit, but they were still our bargaining unit. So we will let those issues be known and go from there.
Yes, please. Yeah, so as far as HPOA's experience, we've had a great working relationship, just like Mr. Jackson mentioned, with the groups. I will say this, and this happened started a couple years ago. The CPPA and the FOP began opening the door to a representative from the HPOA, and I believe from the Black Shield, to attend their directors' meetings. So whether we have someone on their board or not, there's an open invitation, and that's something that, you know, we appreciate, and it's part of the progress. One of the things that we do is encourage our members to become part of the leadership of these organizations. Basically, our members who are supervisors are going to be members of FOP's Lodge 8, and those who are on patrol are going to inherently be part of the CPPA. What does help is being an active part of the leadership process and nominating each other to be part of the leadership, and that ultimately will help inform and shape, you know, the leadership and decision-making and views of those boards. And so we certainly preach that to our members.
Okay, so we're running just a little bit behind schedule, but I want to say that we really appreciate both of you being here. There was some discussion at one time about whether you should come separately. The questions that were asked, the questions that were asked definitely, you know, we drill deeper, and that says that there's an interest within this commission about how you do your work, what kind of support you need, and it definitely will help us to do our work better. I would like to say, I heard you talk about food delivery, and I want to say that the Black Shield has been very instrumental in delivering food in the Garden Valley area. I want to say that because you said something that's very important, that our community will be what they see.
Yes.
And so when our officers are out working in the community and providing the kind of assistance that our residents need, it makes a huge difference in the perception of police. And when the Black Shield delivered primarily to seniors, and with very strong thoughts about police,
Yes.
but to deliver food to them, and to be able to make sure that they feel safe and secure in their homes when they go out. Hopefully our community, as well as your community, will begin to want to be what they see,
Yes.
you know, within, you know, in terms of how the officers serve them. So I wanted to share that piece. I wanted also to say we appreciate, you know, your willingness to share, sometimes with some difficult answers, but definitely answers that we need as a commission. I want to acknowledge just 1 minute. We have the public comment section session coming up. Are there people who will be making public comments and you have questions specifically for these two guests. Yes, Lou.
Good evening. You mentioned in the recent years you notice not too many younger people, I'm not saying too young, I'm just saying maybe at their 20s, not very interested in being police. And same thing, in the school, we noticed that too. Commissioner Adams mentioned that. But do you think this is because right now in the community or in the national news, we have too many of the incidents affecting people that way? Do you think this is a very important reason why not too many people want to be police anymore?
I mean, yes, please.
So I'm sorry. Thank you for the question. If I could clarify, so you're asking if what people are, let's say, watching nationwide circumstances involving police, kind of like the negative view, whether that's influence. I wouldn't say that's the only reason, but it certainly has a huge influence in the recruitment of young officers. But I will also say this. When there are blanket definitions or like blanket descriptions of law enforcement in general, it's certainly going to detract from young folks for sure. And that's why earlier I alluded to saying that while we certainly have to pinpoint the need to fix what is broken, at the same time, we have to highlight the progress. It's almost kind of like carrying a difficult balance because what we want to do is, as we're fixing problems, whether they're institutional or whether they're issues with the folks who make up the police department, bad apples or whatnot, you still want to continue inspiring young folks to do this job that somebody has to do.
Thank you.
Then there goes to two.
Can we limit it to one so we can get back on schedule? Because we will give you the opportunity to ask, to make other comments during the public comment session. So there's the next person behind you, Lou. If you could come up to the mic and identify yourself.
Hello. This is for both of the organizations. I just left another community meeting and they were talking about teenagers, and there was something like, don't quote me on this, 27 missing teens in the last 2 weeks. It's important that our officers build a relationship with our young people as well. Does either organization have any initiative that addresses that relationship between officers and young adults and teens?
Absolutely. Similar to, as I stated earlier, we have several of our members that go into libraries, community centers, our housing projects. Again, this is aside from just your regular tour of duty. And speak with members, get in touch with various residents. If there is someone missing, get more information to give that to our officers who are actually working. So at least just to kind of touch on what you just said about some of the missing teen, we literally have at least some of our members that are, I want to say, working actively with that as we speak.
Thank you. Would you identify yourself for us, please, for the record?
Yes. My name is India. I live in Collinwood, South Collinwood, Ward 10.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I am Jay Williams. Question: have the Black Shield or the Latinos ever told on a police officer?
As far as...
have you ever reported a police officer, we talk about the opportunities for people to want to be a police. Have the police ever told on the police?
Yes.
That's my question.
Absolutely. It's important because this is a policy question. It's important to know that the CDP has a policy where if you come to the knowledge of any misconduct from any officer, you have the responsibility to report it. If it ever comes out that you knew that something was going amiss and you kept your mouth shut, it doesn't matter.
That's not my question. Have the police ever told on a police officer so that we, the public, know that this person was wrong and we can then respect the police? That's what we're missing.
Okay, so you're talking about internally? That's a difficult, it certainly has happened, first of all. Now, whether, let's say, the police department makes it public knowledge, that would be something that the commission would have to look into. You know, there is certainly people who hold others accountable within the department that have told supervisors, hey, this person, there's a problem with that person. That is something that happens all the time. Now, whether the public is informed about these decisions or about the process, I'm not sure that's something that the commission would have to look into. Again, it's important to highlight the progress as well. I think that's, and I keep coming back to it, I don't know why, but there's a responsibility to the leadership to educate, and that's part of educating is being transparent with the community, whether it's for someone who was disciplined for something egregious or something light. It's important to educate the public and say, hey, listen, the disciplinary process is going through for yay amount of people, and this is the misconduct that was identified. I'll tell you this, within the CDP, folks are getting disciplined on a regular basis. They're being held accountable on a regular basis. Eric, you go to a discipline hearing how often? Every few weeks? We get the opportunity, both the Black Shield and the HPOA, to sit in the hearings for transparency. And we sit and we listen and we become informed with the cases. What are the officers doing to get themselves in trouble? We learn from it. The CPPA represents patrolmen who get in trouble, and the FOP represents supervisors who get, disciplined as well. I will, if I could interject here, I do know that in the past, both the HPOA and the CPPA were afforded the opportunity to sit at both the chief of police's hearings and the safety director's hearings. At this time, we are not afforded the opportunity to sit at the safety director's hearings, and I'll make that appeal to the commission.
So what we want to do, because we want to keep on schedule as much as we can, we will cut the questions off from the public directly to the guests. We have another question coming in from the commission itself, and then we will open it up for public comments so that you can share whatever comments you have that those comments will be part of the record. And but it doesn't necessarily mean that you would get a direct answer from either of the guests. It just depends on the timing. So, Commissioner Wong, you had another question?
Yes, thank you so much. So I think you partially answered my question because we have spoken already about racial disparities in discipline. Have there been any studies that have been done? It seems pretty easy just to see how many black officers are disciplined proportional to the number of officers. You don't know of any statistical analysis that's ever been done? So
No.
Okay, great. or unfortunate. And then, so if there is, at least from your experience and anecdotally, that there is a disparity in discipline based on race, I just want to clarify, the police union, you know, the FOP and the other or patrolmen, they're allowed to be at the table at the safety director's disciplinary hearings. Your organizations are in the room, but not there to be able to directly advocate for an officer that may be in your in your association.
There's two answers to that. Number one, we are in the room for the chief's hearings. We used to be allowed to sit at the safety director's hearing. I can't give you a date, but at a certain point, they stopped allowing us that privilege to sit in those meetings, even if it's just sitting there observing like we do for the chief's hearings. But at the safety director level, we have no longer been allowed, and we don't get invited to sit in those hearings. If we go to, let's say, support a member or just to kind of keep up with the disciplinary process and those going through it, if we wanted to, the best we'd get is standing outside the door.
So I just want to clarify, if an officer who is Hispanic or Black or is disciplined, what interaction do you have with the two other police unions in advocating for that officer? If there's any, do they seek your counsel, whether you know, culturally or whatever? And I also would like Mr. Jackson to comment, if he can, if he feels comfortable, about the Black Shield president who was disciplined and eventually sued the city, if he understands the circumstances involved in that, just to maybe explicate to the community how interrelated the disparities in discipline and the promotion and hiring, they're all kind of working together.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back a little bit as far as the stats, as far as discipline broken down by race, ethnicity, and whatnot. Those stats do exist. One of the reasons when we're in the room is we pay attention to every single hearing, its outcome and whatnot. We've done that for as long as I can remember. That's one of the functions that we have once we're in there. As far as speaking or advocating, we do understand as an organization, as organizations, the bargaining unit does the advocating to have the attorneys do that. We're in there simply for one primary purpose is fairness, to ensure that everybody that's going in there is getting equal treatment. So that's where those stats come from. If there is ever issue where we may have seen something in one case that absolutely stands out different from another, we may comment on it. It may not be in that actual hearing that is on record. Sometimes it is, probably depending on the level, but other times it would be certainly something that's placed on record or brought to the attention of administration, like, hey, you may just want to look at this. This is different from this, given the same circumstances. So, and as far as my predecessor, especially if it's ongoing, I'll leave that alone for the moment.
Other comments or questions from the commission? So we still have a few minutes left in the public hearing section. Young man, you want to come up? And I think there was one other person from the floor.
How you doing? I thank you all for having a more orderly meeting this time. It's quite beautiful. Thank you all for showing up. And question to the Black Shield.
Yes, sir.
You say your name was Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I have a friend that just spoke with you recently. It's quite
Okay.
ironic. So I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You guys are primarily first like a type of union for the officers, Black officers.
Yes.
Okay. You were asked a question about community engagement, and you spoke about giving out food and stuff. What do you guys do, if anything, to do something about interaction with the violent factor in our communities? And if or if not you guys are doing it, are you open to other community initiatives?
Absolutely. There are three parts as far as membership within our organization, and it will kind of give you some idea. One is our sworn members, those people who are law enforcement officers. That's who does a lot of the work as far as some of the community events that I spoke of earlier. Second are those the businesses that we associate with. So we just not only as far as law enforcement, if we have people that are interested in business, we have our kids that want to learn more about what they do once they leave high school, this is where we send them to. Third, and most importantly, is our community ties. So we have, for instance, and I'll tell you more in detail, a group that came to us who wanted to speak with people who were getting out of prison and wanted to speak with some of our members of things they can do to kind of help or speak to youth, or even not just youth, people who are just graduate high school, not to take that same path. Traditionally, it wasn't done in the past because, again, there was between those that are coming out of prison and those who are law enforcement. In our community, that gap is wide. So that's one of the initiatives that we're certainly doing now to kind of bridge that and just let people know that even though you just came out, you're one mistake and anyone could end up in there. I could have ended up in there with just one mistake, so.
All right, that's great. You have a card, good brother?
Absolutely. I'll make sure you get all information as soon as you leave here.
Because like I said, I have someone in contact with you, and I have a string of ideas and stuff to talk with you on. And I'd love to connect further.
Absolutely. And for just the public, we can be reached at info@theblackshield.org. Again, that's info@theblackshield.org.
Praise the Lord, everybody. My name is Minister LaBertha Johnson. I'm from Sure House Baptist Church under the leadership of Pastor Phillips. And both of these young men had a question that was on my mind also. But my question is, what about the seniors? We used to have people that would come out and visit the seniors, interact with the seniors. I have just recently started Bible study in the senior building, Euclid Beach Villa. Our seniors need some attention too. And they are sometimes glad to see the police coming without having to come to arrest somebody, or just, not interacting with us is important to me, because that way we know that you're in the neighborhood. We get plenty of food. We don't need no more of that.
Yes.
We don't eat as much as we used to.
Mm-hmm.
So, how about showing up sometimes just to talk to us? A lot of them need that help. In that building now, they are bringing in a lot of homeless people. I have no problem with that. They need some place to live too. But they still need somebody around to know that they're being protected or just being cared about. Okay?
I didn't know. I will address that by saying, before we leave here today, I'll make sure that we have a date and a time that we will come there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank the public for your patience. This is an opportunity for the commissioners to be able to learn a lot about our police department. And so we always want to give the members that opportunity to ask questions so they know how to do the work that they have to do once we leave this table. And we also want to be able to provide that opportunity for the public to ask questions and to share comments. I appreciate your patience as we go through the questions and receive the answers that we need to provide the support that you need to be able to do the work, whether we're investigating, whether we are changing policy or making recommendations to make a better police force that can act effectively with the residents of the city of Cleveland. So thank you for that. We do have, I think what we can do is say thank you to both our guests. We appreciate your being here. And I know we ask a lot of questions, but it would definitely help us to be better commissioners. So thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. And then if there is someone in the audience who just want to make a public comment, we listen, but we don't respond. tonight is something, if a question comes up that we think we need to work with, we will put our heads together and see how we can get back to you. But if you have any other questions or comments, I guess more comments than questions that you want to make to the commission so we can hear your thoughts, we do have a few more minutes for that. So you can come up and take the mic if you like. Yes, Lou.
Yes, thank you. I understand that you may not want to answer the questions, but I want all of you to think about these things. We know there's a CIT training. We know there are lots of things right now. Even some of the things right now are in the academy curriculum. I would like to have all these two groups to think about if their members have been utilizing these trainings, volunteer to participate, because actually this will be good for their jobs and good for themselves. And the other part is, if they really find out they do have a high rate of volunteering to participate in that, then how come they have not noticed that we have enough officers in total to make a dent to break the perception people still have on the police? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there others? Well, thank you. We'll move on to with the agenda. All yours, Chair.
Thank you so much. The next portion of the meeting will consist of different reports. We will hear the report of the Executive Director given by Jason Goodrick.
Okay, it's probably loud because it's on Terry volume level. I'm have to turn it down a little bit. All right. Good evening, Commissioners. I'll start out with talking about Treasury. There's no significant spending to report at this moment, just standard operating costs and business. Pending, we asked for commissioners to let it be known if you can commit to going to NACOL in November, which is the National Association of Civilian Oversight. They have an annual conference, just letting the public know what NACOL means. And we had 10 commissioners respond. So that's quite an extraordinary commitment. So we will be working on how to budget that and get the registrations and see exactly where we're at. When I know the cost of that trip, I will come back and present that to make sure that through the budget committee to make sure that that's okay, since we have such a significant ask there per our policy. Next down the line, I give an update on our public records requests or commission records requests. They're not exactly public. The commission has a little bit more ability to get records than the general public does under Charter Section 115.5. So I will start with, we asked for the Brady Giglio letters that are provided to the Division of Police from the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. Those letters are when they see a possible integrity violation in an officer, which makes them not such a good witness. Those letters are sent. We asked for copies of all the letters going back to the program's inception, which would probably be several years ago, according to the prosecutor's office. We asked on April 17th and followed up on 5/8, and we still have not received a response other than they cannot meet that request due to Safety Director Howard being out of the office. So moving down, we also asked for a follow-up on a surveillance report that was created by the Cleveland Community Police Commission in the spring of 2022, making recommendations for use of technology such as ShotSpotter, drones, and other cameras and things. We asked on 5/5 on that follow-up. We had 90% of it we got a response to. Some of the things we asked for did not exist. We received one policy that we requested, and on the last point, an update on the court requirement to respond to that report from the spring of 2022. We were told again they cannot comply with that because Safety Director Howard is out of the office. The final request that's pending is we had a commissioner who wants to take a look at the 2021 Police Inspector General applications. That request was made yesterday on 5/23. They did reply as received that request, and they will work to process that. They have not provided a timeline yet. Moving on to the last point of business, the commission has its first job posting out publicly. So if anyone knows someone looking for an office manager and finance coordinator position, so that person will be managing the office logistics, working to help the commission's operations run smoothly, and also be a big part of having financial independence in this office. Please check out the City of Cleveland job site and look for that posting. If you can't find it there, reach out to us at the office, and we will help you go through the application process or find that specific way. The job should be posted for at least another week. So again, our first job posting is out, and I'm excited to see who we get to fill that long-needed vacancy to help us move quickly and efficiently through business. And that's all I have. Thank you, chairs.
Any comments? We have Chair Ridgeway.
Yes, I just want to make one comment, just to add to the Executive Director's report, that just to be transparent, that Public Safety Inspector Howard is not just out of the office, he has been called up for reserve military duty, so that's why he's out of the office. I think that's important to share. Thank you.
Any further comments? Okay, hence none. We're going to move forward to the committee reports. We will hear the report of the Internal Training Committee given by Commissioner Earley.
Good evening. Our next CDP training will be on Saturday, June the 3rd. This will be an 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. training. I believe, Jason, this will take us over our 40 hours of required training. Am I correct in that?
We will probably be pretty close.
Okay.
So we'll audit it after we get through the day and see how long it is, but I think we'll be pretty close to that.
Understood. So yes, mark your calendars, Saturday, June the 3rd, we will be at the CPC office for that training. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hence none. The next report we will hear will be the budget and grants given by Chair Adams.
Thank you. So the budget and grants, where we currently are, we have an application that has been drafted. We've gotten feedback from several people. It was sent to the law department in the city, and we've gotten some feedback, and we are currently doing revisions. And so our hope is that, I know that Sarah Anderson, who's been doing a lot of work for us, a staff member on the grants, she ideally would like feedback from all of the commissioners on that committee by Friday, so that we can make the revisions that are needed for us to move forward with the application. But it's essentially done, but it's being tweaked. So, you know, when you work on something, when you are getting down to the end where you really need to put it out, sometimes that's where you kind of get into the nitty gritty and the nuts and bolts. So that's sort of where we are. And then we also are in process of figuring out what we're going to do about these informational sessions for the community, where they will be held, when they will be held, how many will be held. And then also, in terms of the letter of agreement, which is like the contract that the actual grantees will sign, just for knowledge sake, that will actually be developed by the city, the law department, and then we will use that from them. And then lastly, we are considering some changes to the timeline. Considering that this is our first time doing this, you know, we put up a, you know, Commissioner Rodriguez, you were the chair at the time. We had like this kind of ambitious timeline. And because of sort of like having to send things back to the law department and things like that, we will probably have to change the timeline. And I think that's okay. We want to try to get it right. And so we'll just have to meet as a committee and sort of flush out some things like what the new timeline will be, and sort of, you know, the press release that we're going to work on with Sarah on the staff, and then the informational session. So I want to open up to Commissioner Zayed and Commissioner Van Leer, in case I forgot something.
No, I don't think I have, nothing to add for me.
I would just say, once the grants actually launch, Sarah and I have been discussing how the structure of the information sessions are going to go, so they'll probably be ready to go once the applications are live. We can shoot some dates out there.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, please check your email to ensure that we adhere to that deadline of Friday. The next item of business, we will hear the report of the rules given by Commissioner Wong.
Thank you. We have first order of business. I just want to say that our current rules and procedures have been very meticulously uploaded onto our website. So I know there are members of the committee or the community that were interested in those rules and procedures. If you go to our website, it's under the drop-down menu for About Us. It says Rules and Procedures, and we will update that document as we adopt more rules. I believe Interim Executive Director Goodrick has also said that if any community members would like anything that are public documents, to seek them directly from him and email him. So we hope that having these rules as a living document online will help the community better engage with us and clarify some of the things that we are doing. That said, we have two rules that we need to consider and adopt today. I am not going to read them. The first one is section 2.1. They have been all emailed to the rest of the commission, so I'm hoping everybody got to read them. The first one is 2.1. It deals with oversight coordination, the police and CPC relationship, and management and dispute resolution. So I would like to make a motion to adopt this rule and open it up for, do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. And then I guess we can open for discussion and questions right now. Are there any questions?
Okay, so the question is on the adoption of 2.1, Coordination, Relation Management, and Dispute Resolution. We'll call a roll call vote. Commissioner Adams.
Aye.
Commissioner Benito.
Aye.
Commissioner Shara. He's not here. Commissioner Donaldson.
Aye.
Commissioner Earley. The rules 2.1.
Aye.
Commissioner Garret-Ferguson, she's not here. Commissioner Kennedy's not here. Commissioner Reeves.
Aye.
Chair Ridgeway.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez, aye. Commissioner Wong.
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed.
Aye.
Motion adopted.
Thank you. So now we will move on to the second rule for consideration. This involves the flow of information, data, documents, and testimony. And I move that this rule be adopted.
Seconded.
Any question or debate at this time?
Call for the vote.
Okay. So the question is on the adoption of 2.2, flow of information. Commissioner Adams.
Aye.
Commissioner Benito.
Aye.
Commissioner Shara. Not here. Commissioner Donaldson.
Aye.
Commissioner Earley. Aye. Commissioner Garret-Ferguson. Absent. Commissioner Kennedy. Absent. Commissioner Reeves.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Aye.
Commissioner Wong.
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed.
Aye.
Chair Ridgeway.
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez. Aye. Motion carried.
So, to the chair, so those two rules will be uploaded as soon as possible, so you can check that document that I mentioned before. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next report that we will hear is from the hiring committee given by Chair Donaldson.
Yes, just two things. First thing is that Commissioner Wong did request to be a member of the hiring committee. And then second update is the meeting that was scheduled to occur on Monday was canceled. So once the new date has been determined, we will send that out so that everyone is notified of the date.
Thank you. So the next item is old business. We would like to consider Commissioner Bonito to officially serve on the MRAC. She has been doing it so graciously. So I move that the Cleveland Community Police Commission allow Commissioner Bonito to serve in the MRAC capacity.
I second.
Thank you. Any question or debate at this time? Hence none. We're going to call for the vote. Commissioner Adams?
Aye.
Commissioner Benito?
Aye.
Commissioner Shara? Commissioner Donaldson?
Aye.
Commissioner Earley? Commissioner Garret-Ferguson? Commissioner Kennedy? Commissioner Reeves?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer?
Aye.
Commissioner Wong?
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed?
Aye.
Chair Ridgeway?
Aye.
Chair Rodriguez? Aye. Motion carried. Chair Ridgeway?
Yes. I just want to make a comment. We have been talking for a while about different commissioners actually representing the commission, either in terms of a topic that would be of interest to our work, or either something that we might end up, it would just make us a stronger commission to know about. So Commissioner Bonito has actually been attending the MRAC meetings already. She has a real interest in mental health, and as many of you know, that's a major issue that we have to work with, within the commission. And so we are really glad to officially have you become the liaison, to MRAC. But I want to extend this invitation to others. So if there's a topic out there that you're interested in, whether it's child advocacy or some other topic that might have a direct impact on our work, please let us know. We want to be in the community. We want to be able to hear the community, if they bring concerns up, and you will be the ears for the commission, and we'll bring that information back to the commission for discussion and consideration. So I just wanted to extend this invitation to other commission members as well. Thank you.
Any further old business at this time? None? So Commissioner Ridgeway?
Okay, so we just need to remind everyone about our meeting schedule. Would you like to? Okay, so during the meeting, during the month of June, instead of 2 meetings, we will have the 1 meeting, and that will be June 14th. That meeting will be June 14th, and the rest of June will allow our various committees. We just set up, 4 more recently, will allow our 4 committees to get up and running, talking to each other and determining a schedule and a time for your regular meeting. So it will be just that 1 meeting in June, and we approved at the last meeting, full commission meeting, that we would go to 1 meeting during the, beginning with the month of July. There will be 1 meeting beginning the month of July. So we just need to advertise that, make that part of the public meeting tonight. So everyone would know 1 meeting in June, and then we officially go to 1 meeting a month beginning in July. And the 1 meeting a month will always be the 4th Wednesday of the month. We still will be moving it around in the community so we can hit, different neighborhoods, and people can, be there and ask questions and talk to us individually. So I think that's it, right? Okay.
Any new business at this time? Commissioner Benito.
Thank you, fellow commissioners, for giving me the opportunity to serve the commission as a liaison to MRAC. One thing that I wanted to highlight is that there is an opportunity. As everybody knows, we have the CIT program, which is a program that gives officers 40 hours of training on mental health and crisis response to then be part of a crisis intervention team. The city holds 3 trainings per year where officers volunteer to join that training. And there is an opportunity for commissioners, if commissioners would like to attend this training, that they may. The next dates are in is it November? October and November. And yeah, and Commissioner Ridgeway will be attending, but there are additional spots if other commissioners would also like to join. I will send an email out with information about, what CIT is in the training. But the caveat is you do have to attend the full 40 hours of the training. So you can't go for just part of it. So you need to be able to commit to attending those full 40 hours, which I know can be challenging with our other full-time jobs that many of us have. But I did still want to open the opportunity. Chairs, would you like interested people to respond to you to let you know that they want to do it, or would you like them to respond to Officer Mullins directly?
I think they have to respond directly to officer, but it also needs to be sent to the executive director. Okay. Yes.
So I will send that information out, and I'll make sure to include Officer Mullins' information in there. He is the CIT coordinator, but I'm also going to give it to you guys now. It's J. Mullins, J-M-U-L-L-I-N-S. Huh? Mullen. Oh, sorry, Mullen. I'm giving him a new name. So J. Mullen, M-U-L-L-I-N, at clevelandohio.gov. So you can send him an email. Make sure you CC Jason. We have, I believe, 5 spots open if you would like to attend, and I'll send additional information as well as just some information about CIT training in general.
Thank you. We have Commissioner Adams.
Thank you. Very briefly, I just wanted to say that I know our training committee, we have 4 commissioners on it, and we were informed at the meeting that we attended that the police would like to have their training document for 2024 drafted by the end of July. So I won't go through it, I can send it in an email to everyone, but there's about 10 or 15 categories on this list. They were very open to us helping with them and working with them, so I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to take. And then also, Executive Director Goodrick also forwarded, they actually sent us some samples, like drafts of like curriculum and lesson plans, requesting that we provide feedback. So, we'll do as much work as we can do, but it's a short time frame. So I was hoping that even though the other commissioners have their own responsibilities and everything, that maybe some of you may be open to doing like a small work group or whatever help you can provide to help us, because training is one of the, to me, important things that we have a lot of important things to do, but it's an opportunity to work with them, and they're inviting us, and I would just want to get that done because I just think it's so important. So I just want to reach out to everyone and just welcome you, encourage, just do, if you can only do a little, just do a little, as much as you can do, it will be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further new business? Commissioner Reeves, and then we'll have Commissioner Donaldson.
I move that we take a recess for the month of June for full commission meetings.
So,
did everybody understand what I was saying?
Yeah, is there a second? If there's no second, it dies.
That's fine.
He's made a motion. Is there a second at this time?
I second it just to put it on the floor for discussion.
The question on the adoption is to cancel the June meeting, June 14th. Executive Director.
To the commission, just a point, we do have training scheduled for June 14th. It's very important. The Superintendent of Internal Affairs is coming to that meeting. It took some coordination to be able to get him to appear, and if we don't get it in, we already have our month of July taken up with a very important meeting, so that means maybe not until August or September when we'd have another opportunity to do that, and so just wanted to make that point that we did make a commitment to train through June and worked very hard to hit all of our targets on our training schedule, and that's one of the last important pieces that if we skip June 14th, we'll lose that opportunity.
Thank you so much for making that point. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? So we're going to call the vote. The question is on the adoption to...
I have a clarifying question. So so in July, we'll be meeting the fourth week.
Fourth Wednesday.
This was was part of this 2 weeks difference, or is that how it got to June 14th?
The second and
Okay.
fourth. That's why the 14th is
Okay.
the second
All right.
Wednesday.
So we're going to call for the vote. The question is on the adoption to cancel the June 14th meeting. We will have a roll call. Commissioner Adams.
Nay.
Commissioner Benito.
Nay.
Commissioner Shara. Commissioner Donaldson.
Nay.
Commissioner Earley. Commissioner Garret-Ferguson. Commissioner Kennedy. Commissioner Reeves.
Nay.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Nay.
Commissioner Wong.
Nay.
Commissioner Zayat.
Nay.
Chair Ridgeway.
Nay.
Chair Rodriguez, nay. Motion failed. So we're going to presume with new business. Is there any further new business? I think Commissioner Donaldson has something.
Just really quick, I did ask Commissioner Earley a side question about what was going to be covered in the training on the 3rd, so I just wanted to give him the opportunity to tell everyone that.
This will be part 2 of our policy training with the Cleveland Police Department.
Any further new business? Any further new business? Commissioner Earley.
I do want to say congratulations to Ms. Williams on the conversations that she had in the community. Really good job, good work. And to the commissioners that supported that, I think it was very good for us to be a part of that. So congratulations to her and to the office for putting on such a great conversation in our community.
The youth commissioner, Commissioner Adams. We got some time.
Thank you. I just wanted to say formally, publicly, thank you to the other commissioners. You know, everyone on the commission knows that, you know, the past 5 months I've lost my grandmother and my mother. And so it's just been a rough time for me. And I really appreciate the support from everyone on the commission. So I want to just publicly say thank you. It's really appreciate it.
Any further new business? Okay. So I move to adjourn the meeting at 8:07 p.m. So moved. Okay. So moved. Thank you so much for attending.